Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool have got an absolutely massive game this weekend. They are taking on Tottenham Hotspur at Anfield, one of our biggest rivals for fourth place, currently only 2 points below us in the table at the moment. So this game will have a huge bearing on who may finish in the Champions League spots by the end of the season. And I, for one, am absolutely massively fired up for this one, and I think the Liverpool players will be as well, because as we all know, one of Liverpool's worst moments so far this season was the game at Wembley against Spurs earlier on in this season, when we got absolutely tonked 4-1. The players just didn't show up. Spurs did. They were in really good form. We were in terrible form, and we just got battered, and I think we absolutely owe them one for this game. You know, in the same way that when we brought Man City to Anfield, we were all still hurting from the 5-0 loss earlier on in the season. We know that we didn't give a good account of ourselves. We didn't show just how good we were in the previous game against Man City, and as a result, the players went out, they were fired up, they were desperate to prove their case, and we ended up coming away with a massive 3 points in that one. And I'm just hoping that they can do it the exact same in this game as well. And it has that added factor with the top 4 race as well. You know, if Spurs win, they go above us. These players need to be going into this game thinking Spurs do not deserve to be above us. We are above them in the table for a reason. We want to stay like that. We want to beat them. We want to open up that gap, and we want to cement our space in those Champions League spaces. And like I said, this weekend's game represents a perfect opportunity to do it by getting one over them. So team news going into the match, Jurgen Klopp mentioned a few things in his press conference. He said that Adam Lallana is training fit but not match fit, so basically that means he isn't going to play a part in this game, but he is in full training kind of. So apparently he'll probably make his comeback in the game against Southampton in a week's time, so just making sure that he can get fully sharp before throwing him back in, because, you know, earlier on in the season when Adam Lallana was brought back into the side, he just looked a little bit off the pace. He wasn't quite up to playing in the Premier League and up to the kind of standard that you expect in terms of fitness from your players. So Jurgen Klopp playing it a little bit safe there. He won't feature in this game. Other things that Jurgen Klopp mentioned in his press conference, he had a little bit of a chat about Sadio Mane, who obviously has had some question marks about his form recently, has been playing pretty on and off quite poorly for the last month or so now, and it's gone on a little bit too long for it to be considered like a tiny dip in form or an off day or a couple of off days or anything like that. It is becoming a concern for Liverpool fans, and I'm sure it's a concern for Jurgen Klopp as well. So it makes sense why he talked up Sadio Mane in his press conference, because obviously I think the problem with Sadio Mane, it does seem to be a confidence thing. He just doesn't look like he's as assured in his football as he was earlier on in his Liverpool career. And Jurgen Klopp obviously doing the right thing, not like Jose Mourinho when your players are shot of confidence and you just basically go into your press conference and call them fat idiots all the time. Jurgen Klopp knows what he's doing. He goes in, he talks up Sadio Mane, talks about how great he is, and he kind of had a point, to be fair, because, you know, like he said, when Mane is average, he's still playing very, very well. It's just an average day for him, and we have kind of seen that over the last month or so. You know, against Huddersfield, he had a lovely touch to put Firmino through on goal. He created something like 4 chances just in the first half of that game, which is very, very impressive as well. Fantastic goals against Man City and Burnley. So he's still bringing up the end product. It's just not quite as consistent as it has been in the past. So I think this game represents a fantastic opportunity for Sadio Mane to get back into form. Obviously, last season when we played Spurs at Anfield, Mane was the difference. He scored the 2 goals that won us the game. So it'd be lovely to see him do the same in this one, because it doesn't feel like it's one where just one goal is going to lift his spirits. I think we've seen that against Man City and against Burnley, he scored lovely goals in those games, and he still hasn't got out of this rut. So I think it's going to take a really good performance from Sadio Mane, potentially a couple in a row or something like that, to get his confidence back. And like I said, this game is a wonderful opportunity for him to do so against a big side in a massive game in front of that Anfield crowd, which hopefully will be hugely up for the game, just like the players should be. You know, I think that was one of the differences in the game against Man City. It was mentioned on the Redmen TV how the fact we could just rally around booing Sterling meant that the crowd just created this incredible partisan atmosphere that just blew Man City away, just like the players did. So hopefully we can do the same thing in this game against Spurs. So as for how I think we're actually going to line up, I reckon it's going to be Loris Karius in goal for obvious reasons that have already been explained countless times. Centre-back pairing, I think we are going to go with Matip and Van Dijk. Personally, I'd actually quite like to see Klavan given a go in this game, because I think these are the kind of games where Ranjar Klavan is actually almost deceptively good. I think he's a little bit better on the ball than a lot of people give him credit for. He's been building up a little bit of a cult following around Liverpool fans at the moment, because so far this season his performances have actually been pretty decent. Last season he made a few errors, you know, he didn't always look that convincing, but he was having his first year in the Premier League, his first year in English football, and now he does actually seem to have settled down a little bit. And like I say, he's got a wee bit of a cult following amongst Liverpool fans, definitely one with the Anfield rap. They seem to actually absolutely love Ranieri Klavan, and like I said, I can kind of see why. He's been putting in some decent performances this season, so I would kind of like to see a Van Dijk and Klavan partnership just to see how they get on together and see whether that's a dynamic that works. Personally, I think Klopp is going to go with Matip and Van Dijk because, you know, they're the kind of centre-backs that really suit this game. I think obviously there'll be shouts for Lovren. He played against Huddersfield, had a really good performance against Huddersfield as well, but those are the kind of games that suit Dejan Lovren. Games against Spurs and teams like that just really aren't. You know, Dejan Lovren, he loves a physical battle. He likes to get aggressive, and that works against teams like Huddersfield, which are going to occasionally lump the ball forward. They're going to have a target man up front. Those games are perfect for Dejan Lovren, and they don't really suit players like Joel Matip, who are a bit more about ball playing and kind of more intelligent defending, stuff with positioning and stuff like that. But I just think Lovren, he isn't suited to playing world-class teams. You know, we saw what happened when he played against a world-class striker in Kane in the game at Wembley earlier on in the season. It just didn't go well at all. He tried his aggressive style. He tried his no-nonsense style of football. It doesn't work. He just gets caught out by these players because they're a little bit too slick. Their touch is just too good, and he ends up looking like an absolute muppet. So Spurs, I think their attack is just too good, too intricate, and too clever for a player like Dejan Lovren. So I think Klopp is going to go with Matip and Van Dijk. And then the fullbacks, I reckon we're going to go with Gomez and Andrew Robertson for this game. You know, same fullbacks that played against Huddersfield, same fullbacks that played against Man City as well. And I think that is 100% how Liverpool are going to model for their team for this game. We're basically going to go for the same game plan that we went for against Man City of, you know, pressing high up the pitch, playing clever passes, but also being intelligent in terms of leaving players back and being solid in defence. Obviously, we weren't that solid in that game. We conceded 3 goals, but if you isolate those goals, Liverpool actually played very well. It was just down to a few silly errors that meant we were constantly punished by Man City, and they managed to come away with a fairly decent scoreline. But yeah, I think Robertson and Gomez are key to that. As I mentioned in the pre-Huddersfield video, they're very good defensive fullbacks. You know, Gomez, centre-back by trade. Andrew Robertson loves a battle with a winger. I don't know who Spurs play on that side. I think it might be Ericsson or Ali. I think they're a little bit interchangeable. So he won't quite have the pace of Balassi or Sterling, who obviously Robertson did very well against in the games in January against Everton and Man City. Son will be dealt with by Joe Gomez. I have every trust in Joe Gomez that he'll be able to deal with that. So yeah, I think those fullbacks are going to be very pivotal to helping Liverpool win this game by just sitting off a little bit, protecting those 2 central defenders and preventing them from getting exposed in any kind of situations like they were in the game at Wembley earlier on in the season. And yet then the midfield, I reckon we are going to go with Henderson, Emre Can and Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain is an absolute must for this game. His pressing was so good against Man City. You know, he really helped actually set the tempo for Liverpool in that game rather than just playing to the tempo that was being set by other players like Emre Can or Wijnaldum or Firmino. He really took the game by the scruff of the neck early on and helped us get a foothold in it. Obviously, that first goal helped massively. I think Liverpool getting the first goal in this game will be huge as well, because against Man City, it just gave us the belief early on. Even when they equalised, we still knew that we had the capabilities of scoring against City and we had the capabilities of taking the lead. And again, first goal in this game I think is massive. Spurs got the first goal at Wembley. It absolutely killed the game against us and we just couldn't get back into it. I think if we get the first goal on Sunday, then we can do exactly the same to them. So yeah, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain is pivotal to that, to just helping us have a bright and fast start. Also helpful given that we'll probably look to counter-attack whenever Spurs try and press a little bit higher up the pitch. We'll look to find those spaces in behind, use the pace of players like Salah and Mane, and Oxlade-Chamberlain will be key to that as well. And then I think Klopp's probably going to go with Henderson and Can because I think they're just a little bit of a safe pair of hands in midfield. You know, they've both got defensive capabilities. In an ideal world, personally, I'd prefer to see Emre Can and Wijnaldum because I'd quite like to see us go with the exact same midfield that played against Man City because that midfield played so incredibly well and I just want to see it again and see what they can do in games like this because they were so good last time out. But I just think Klopp, he seems to be a big fan of Henderson, loved his performance against Huddersfield. I personally thought he was pretty decent against Huddersfield. midfield. So I reckon we are going to see Henderson in that 6. Emre Can probably in a bit more advanced role. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. Whether he can replicate the kind of box-to-box stuff that Wijnaldum did against Man City earlier on in the season. But yeah, that is how I think we are going to line up in midfield. Henderson, Can and Oxlade-Chamberlain. And then the front three, of course, it's Mo Salah, Firmino and Sadio Mane. So Spurs then, obviously a very, very good footballing side. They've proved that this season. They've proved that by the fact that they are only 2 points behind Liverpool at the moment, and obviously proved that with a fantastic performance against Man United last time out. And I'm kind of crossing my fingers that that game took a little bit out of them, because obviously while they put it beyond Man United early on, you know, they went 2-0 up within the first half hour, they still kept having a go. They were attacking all the way through to the end of the game, and it was only because of wayward finishing really that they didn't come away with an even bigger scoreline against United. And I'm hoping that because of that, and obviously the fact that they played a day after Liverpool, hopefully they might be a little bit knackered for this game. But obviously Liverpool can't just count on that. Like I said, Spurs are a fantastic footballing side. One of the things that does worry me as well is the fact that with their 4-2-3-1 formation against United, they actually played 2 defensive midfielders. They had Eric Dyer and I believe it was Moussa Dembele in the midfield. Obviously they've got Wanyama as well. He came on as a late sub in that game. But yeah, I get the feeling they'll probably go with a similar system, what with it being also away from home. They won't want to attack too much. And I think that will be absolutely key for Liverpool if they are to win this game. They absolutely have to win the midfield battle. Like I said earlier on, the midfield that played against Man City, it did so well. It dominated the game, and that is ultimately what I think led to us actually winning the match. So I think they will have to do the exact same against Spurs, especially up against those 2 very strong central defensive midfielders, which are going to protect Spurs' back four very well. But if we are also looking for things to hang hopes on, then Spurs really don't have a very good record at all against the top 6 away from home under Maurizio Pochettino. They've had 3 games away against the top 6 so far this season. One was against United, they lost that 1-0. One was against Arsenal, lost that 2-0. And another was against Manchester City, which, as we all know, they lost 4-1. So they are very much a different beast away from home, and hopefully Liverpool can count on that. The fact that they aren't going to perform to anywhere near the level that they did when we played them at Wembley earlier on in the season. But like I say, fantastic footballing team, very, very good attacking side as well. So Liverpool will absolutely have to bring their away game if they want to beat Spurs, and hopefully they can. I believe they can, and here are my 3 reasons why I think Liverpool will beat Tottenham on Sunday. First of all, this game is just absolutely perfect for Jurgen Klopp's gegenpressing system. We saw against Man City, you know, gegenpressing writ large in its absolute perfect form, all the players conforming to the kind of system that Jurgen Klopp was trying to implement, and they managed to beat a side which, on paper, in terms of simply the personnel they have, are probably a wee bit better than Liverpool in terms of just the quality of the individuals that they have in their squad. But Jurgen Klopp's system, the way he gets the team to band together under this one philosophy of playing football, just works so well in these kinds of games. So hopefully we can get a similar result as the one against Man City. Obviously Spurs will probably sit back a little bit more. Like I say, they've got those central defensive midfielders, but as long as Liverpool can implement that system, I think they've got every chance of winning this game. And that kind of leads into my second reason why, because I think that Roberto Firmino is going to be the absolute key man for us in this match. Like I say, gegenpressing is so important to us. It's absolutely huge in these kind of games, and Roberto Firmino just leads that charge so incredibly well in that centre forward position. And he's also in absolutely incredible form at the moment. You know, he had a great goal against Huddersfield. He scored a really, really nice one against West Brom as well. Scored another fantastic goal against Man City. So he's in fantastic form. He's scoring brilliant goals. As I said in the post-Huddersfield post-match video for that, he is almost a world-class player, it seems, with the kind of quality he's bringing to Liverpool matches at the moment. Obviously, he's going to have to replicate this form on a regular basis if he does want to become a world-class player or even be in the reckoning for that kind of title. But I just think with the form he's in at the moment and the kind of game that we're going to try and play, the kind of system we're going to try and implement, Firmino will be absolutely key for us, and I think that he will be. And finally, we owe Spurs one in this game. As I said at the top of the video, we need to show them that we are nowhere near as bad as we were at Wembley earlier on in the season. And it feels a little bit arbitrary, a little bit silly to just say that I think we'll win because the players will be fired up for this one. But there's no doubt that the fact that we lost to Man City 5-0 earlier on the season, it did have a big bearing on the performance that we put in at Anfield against them last month. It just meant that, you know, the players wanted to prove that they were better. They wanted to prove to the manager as well that they were capable of implementing his tactical plan in games like this. And so I think, you know, we've come a long way since the Spurs game as well. We had a fantastic unbeaten run that sadly was broken recently with some disappointing performances. But I think it's about time that we showed Spurs who's boss, showed them who's the better side, showed them who deserves to be in those Champions League spots and who deserves to get the 3 points on Sunday afternoon. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with the FIFA 18 prediction show for this game, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button there. If you're new around here, check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you tomorrow for the FIFA prediction show. Bye for now.